It would appear that actor Hank Azaria, which is the white devil responsible for the voice of the character Apu from The Simpsons, is issuing a public apology, which the press is showing to the entire world for his atrocities. He has committed structural racismus in playing the character Apu on The Simpsons. I want everyone to think about this for a little bit. If the actor Hank Azaria hypothetically would partake into a car accident, which may have been his fault, and let's say a couple of people would lose their lives because of it, he would not feel the need to make a public apology. Like, how many times have you seen actors or famous people making an apology because they got involved into a car crash? I don't think that's ever the case. I can't remember any actors doing this in recent years. Which means that partaking into structural racism is actually worse. Because you have to think about it, like, what does the press say? Whatever there is a police officer which takes the life of an unarmed black person, it's structural racism, right? So that's why it happens. That's why police are shooting unarmed individuals in the United States, because of people like Hank Azaria, which plays Apu in The Simpsons. Now, you need to also look at something else, which is very interesting, also came out this week. An opinion from The Guardian by intellectual Ara Mahdawi. Why are people losing their heads over Black Anne Frank? I'm sorry, Black Anne Boleyn. So a lot of people are asking, what are the rules? All right, like, why is it wrong for Hank Azaria to play Apu in The Simpsons, but it's not okay for anyone to complain about a black person playing the role of Anne Boleyn? And some people are saying that there are no rules, but that's not the case. See, I actually got brain damage from reading the academic literature in order to understand this way of thinking and educate you, bigot. A lot of people say they don't have time to educate you. Well, I have. I will educate you to the best of my knowledge and the best of my abilities. So when you go to the academic papers, you need to understand that the words the critical theorists are using are not the same words that you are using. And if you don't speak their language, they will try to take advantage of you, which is why the entire ideology is created in such a way so that the activist, without much thought, can use the newspeak, the pigeon speak, if you will, in order to take advantage of kind people. So the first word you need to understand is multiculturalism. When you think about multiculturalism, you think about the United States, right? Like, you got people from different cultures going together in the United States and melting in the melting pot, and they create American culture. Wrong. That's not what multiculturalism is. See, that's why they take advantage of it, because you're a sucker. What I just described is uniculture, actually. That's how they define it. And it's oppressive. It's fascistic. It is bigoted. It has to go. No, multiculturalism means two things. Number one is erecting walls between various cultures. And you're not allowed to interact with one another. So that's why they say cultural appropriation. Okay? Like, unless you're part of that specific culture, you are not allowed. No, seriously, allowed is the word, to partake into it. That's why they freak out every Halloween. Because it's like, oh, what if a white person goes out with a sombrero hat? Right? Like, that's the reason. It's a wall. Like, you're not allowed to bypass that wall. And the second thing is that they consider all cultures to be equally valid. So, in other words, a oppressive, dictatorial, Islamic theocratic regime is just as valid as a culture that's, for liberty, freedom. They don't see any difference. With the exception of European culture, okay? That one is evil because it's oppressive. And that culture needs to be suppressed. In other words, like Thomas Sowell said, you're not allowed to criticize any other culture, and every single bad thing that is happening on planet Earth is because of the European culture, which when you say European, you like don't think about Germany and France. It's mostly like British culture with Locke and liberty is bad. Liberty allows people to make decisions. People make bad decisions, and you end up with fascism. Okay, like that's exactly how they're thinking. Now, let's talk a little bit about the casting choices, right? Because you now have walls between different cultures. You're not allowed to cast someone like Hank Azaria as an Indian character within The Simpsons, because that takes away a role which a Indian person could fill. They also consider the fact that like only a member of a specific group can have an authentic experience of that group, which means that like a white person can't possibly understand the experience of an Indian person, which is why they can't play Apu in The Simpsons. Look, I'm not the one coming up with this ideology. I'm just explaining it to you. I'm trying to simplify it. I'm trying to remove all of the academic jargon to get the bare bones so you can understand the reasoning behind the madness. Now, I know like normal people would say, well, hold on, like an actor, the reason they used to wear masks in ancient Greece is because they are playing something else. I mean, if you have a human playing Jesus Christ on a set, right, you can't understand the experience of divinity, but he plays it nonetheless for the audience. But that's not how they're thinking. Okay? Now, the second question is like, why is it that a black person can play Anne Boleyn? They view that because of historical injustices which have been done in the past, makes it okay if certain groups are getting a bigger percentage on the equity scale. Okay, now what is equity? Like every single time you deal with the academics, you have to question literally every single definition they use, because they might sneak up on you. You don't know when they come up with the definition, like, boom! You think it means something because you're a charitable dumb fuck, but they're not, so they're going to try to take advantage. Equity for them means that every single business, including businesses within the media, has to be represented by the same percentages of people in the general population. Okay, so if you have, let's say, 50% women in a population, then they expect that in every single institution, you're going to have 50% men, 50% women. If you don't have that, then it means you're not reaching equity, and if you're not reaching equity, it's because of systemic sexism. What is systemic sexism? See, again, like you need to ask the questions. Systemic sexism means that there is the equity has not been reached. They can't really point to where the sexism is at, but there must be somewhere, so it's systemic. They can't show like, okay, this is a particular case, which is why it annoys them when you ask like, well, can you give me an example? And the reason might be, okay, like why, let's say, aren't there 50% of women in the sewage cleaning industry? There might be that the culture is promoting men to go into the sewage cleaning industry. As such, women are robbed from it because they don't see themselves being represented within media as sewage cleaners. Does that make sense? Okay, that's their logic. So, in the media, it's also important to have the representation. It doesn't matter if it's a historical film, doesn't matter if it's fiction, like you need the representation. What happens when a group gets overrepresented, like in this case, right? Well, they will say that because of historical oppressions and historical marginalizations of these groups, it's now okay for them to be overly represented as a way of reparations. I'm not kidding, like this is the literature. This is the academic papers you guys want me to read. Holy crap. So, it's fine, in other words, right? It's fine if historically marginalized groups that you didn't see on television before, you see them more often now. But the other way around would be whitewashing. Does it make sense? Good, now I explained it. So there you go, there are rules. Also, you may have noticed that I have a new camera now, which makes me happy. I couldn't have done this without your super chats. Got a new setup, right? Table, boom, camera, bang, microphone, laptop, and hopefully in the future when I will get more money, I'll Maybe do something with the background. Hopefully a bookshelf, a wallpaper, or something like that. We'll see. I'm investing in the business, so that when YouTube decides to demonetize me, it would make me even more sad. But with that said, I'll make another video on my secondary channel where we talk about culture. With the fact that the BBC diversity officer, if I'm not mistaken, I'll have to look it up again, said that a black actor is not black enough. So we're going to look into that. It's going to be also very interesting. I'll release that video maybe like in 2 hours or so. So stay tuned on my other channel. Thank you for watching this one, and I'll see you in the comment section.